All right. So take a deep breath and close your eyes. I know that we are each here by divine appointment, that we each came this morning to this session because there's something here for each one of us. So Spirit, we are open and receptive now to your Spirit guiding and leading us in this time so that we hear what is most helpful to hear, say what needs to be said so that we can go forward into this day and the rest of our days, blessed, graced, and insightful. We give thanks that we are empowered in wondrous ways today and always, thanks to your Spirit. We pray this now, knowing it's so, and so it is. And we all say, Amen. Thank you, thank you. Okay, where's my crack admin?
In the other room.
Here I am.
There she is.
So
Any housekeeping, Cass?
housekeeping, so that everybody can hear better, I'm going to make sure that you're all on mute. Who's that on the telephone?
Betty Joe.
Hi, Betty Joe. Do you know how to mute and unmute yourself?
Yes, I will do that. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. So I'm not able to unmute you. So if you want to speak, you have to unmute yourself. But if you forget to mute yourself, I am able to mute you. And those of you in the classroom, talk, project your voice. Don't just kind of talk conversationally. Project like you're talking to an audience out there. You're on the stage talking to a lot of people. Project it into the microphone so that everybody can hear you. And I think that's all, right?
I think so.
Okay.
So my crack admin has put on her a new hat this morning, and that is tell them what the rules are. Okay, I'm glad you're all here. Do any of you know who Mitchell Gaynor is? Mitchell Gaynor, ever heard that name? No. When I was in, I don't know at what stage in my own spiritual journey, I became very, very interested, probably in my Catholic upbringing when we used to chant. You know, I would listen to the priest at a high mass chant, and I've been in services where, you know, the monks are chanting all around. So that was probably the seed idea. As a result of unity and, you know, some of my own exploration, I got very interested in sound healing, and came across two people that I studied with, let's say that, Jill Peirce and Mitchell Gaynor. And Mitchell Gaynor, I don't know what he's doing now because it's been a number of years since I actually brought him to Unity Village, but he's an oncologist and head of oncology, or was anyway, at Columbia University and the hospital there. And what he discovered with his patients, mostly terminal, right, was that healing, when he did sound healing with crystal bowls, they really made some wonderful progress in terms of healing. So I became a believer even more so. And I think I've mentioned to some of you who have been in class with me before, I always tone to myself, tone with myself, tone with God and the Spirit in me every morning, to calibrate, with the intention to calibrate the energies of my body, so, and my mind, my consciousness, so I show up how I want to show up and not how I don't want to show up. You know what I'm saying? Of course, that's kind of hard with Mackie. Hi, Mackie. We are a bad pair. Let me just say that. Just put us together and you got trouble. But anyway, here's something that Mitchell Gaynor said. My belief is that we can all find the rhythms and harmonics of our celestial music, and that our efforts will enable us to live extraordinary lives filled with peace, passion, health, and a sense of unity with the universe. We can all find our own celestial music. Angeles Arians, who is actually a Buddhist, are any of you familiar with Angeles Arians? Oh, okay. Well, she's really good. She's in San Francisco too, where she was. She calls it, she was raised as she was born into a Basque family, Spanish family, Basque. And the Basques apparently have the practice of having their children, as they come into teenage years, discover their own celestial music or their own sound. So right up front, I'm going to invite you to experiment with your own celestial sound sometime this week before we meet again. Just start making some sounds. It's always helpful to tone the vowel sounds, A-E-I-O-U, to just tone them. You don't have to have this perfect operatic singing voice. You just, like that. Okay. So today is class 3, and we are dealing with materials in chapters 6 through 9 in the book. And so you see before you the study guide. So let's take a look at the study guide. And Sandy, would you read that quote at the very top from George Leonard? Read it for all of us. Unmute. Unmute. You're still muted.
There we go. I thought you had to unmute me. Okay. Whatever your age, your upbringing, or your education, what you are made of is mostly unused potential. It is your evolutionary destiny to use what is unused, to learn and keep on learning for as long as you live. To choose this destiny, to walk the path of mastery, isn't always easy, but it is the ultimate human adventure.
Thank you.
George Leonard.
Thank you. So, some of us may think we're past that age of having any potential left, but you know better, right?
Right.
So you might consider, well, what might that be? I'm kind of curious. I know one thing is I want to learn to play the saxophone. Another thing is I want to learn how to samba. Of all the dances I learned, I didn't get samba. So you might consider that as you go into your week. What potential is there? And it can be any kind, spiritual, emotional, intellectual, physical. Might God be calling you to discover and express right now in your life? For Mackie, it would be breakdancing. I'm sorry, I can't help myself. Well, I can, but I don't want to. But seriously now, going forward, given that that's true, and who was it? George Bernard Shaw said something like this, I want to be totally used up when I die. Totally used up. I feel that way too. Use it all. Why not? What would we be saving it for? Okay, I'm moving forward on this study guide. Are you ready?
Ready.
Okay, number 1 says, faith gives us the grit to follow our dreams in the face of obstacles and setbacks. What have you all learned about that? Is that true or not in your life? And if so, how so?
I think
Anybody
that
wanna-
for me, faith, it was faith that brought me to and got me to continue doing healing touch classes and to certify. It was just a knowing that that was what I was supposed to do. And there were times when I would head to the class and I had not paid for it yet, and I did not have the money for it. And one particular time, I just had faith that somehow I would be able to take the class that I was going to, and I was driving an hour and a half to it. And I just believed that I would be able to take the class and that the funds would appear or something would happen that I would be able to take it. Well, my mom had called right before I left. She lived close to where the class was. And she said, "Sweetie, do you have time to go out to lunch before your class?" And I said, "Actually, I do. I'll leave early." And so we went out to lunch, and she handed me an envelope and she said, "I just want you to have this." And when I got in my car to leave, she said, "Don't look at it now, but I just want you to have this." And I had no idea what it was. I got in my car to go to class, and it was the exact amount of money for my class. Now, she didn't know how much my class was. She didn't even, until we had lunch, didn't even know what the class was. She just knew I was going up to the cities to take a class. So that was kind of the most astounding thing to me that kept me going. Whenever I don't believe something's going to happen, I say, remember that time that you just believed and it showed up. So that was a cool thing.
What a great, great example. And I think what I want to point to here, Sandy, for all of us, is that you took the action first. You put your faith into action first, and then your faith was proven. Yeah.
And, you know, it was interesting because I kept saying to myself that it's not that I didn't have what ifs. You know, as I was driving, I kept saying, this is nuts. This is nuts. And, but then I would talk to myself again. It was an hour and a half drive, so I had a lot of conversations. And at one point I just thought, well, so what can happen? I walk in, they say no, I go home. You know, it's suffer a little, you know, shame. But I move on from there, you know. So what can they say but no, you know?
Right. Right. Thank you for that. Thank you. Anybody else want to comment on that one?
I have an odd one. Now, Kathy, can you hear me? Okay. I don't think I had enough faith, but the second time I was fired from teaching for the way I taught, I applied at this hippie school in Colorado that, hippie, the dreadlock was the era of choice. And on the way there, this song, "It's a Wonderful World," you know that song?
Oh, yes.
And I have had so many moments with that song, like one where I was really mad at my sister, and that pops up on the radio, and I get it, God, stop it. But I hear that song on the way to the interview, and I get a job at this school, and I spent 5 years there. While I was there, I published many articles about my work with these kids. It was a hippie school enough that I could teach the way I wanted to teach, the way I'd always wanted to teach. Because of that, I got the job with the consulting firm. And I don't know that I had enough faith, Sharon. I think I kind of gypped the system. I did put myself out there and apply.
We get that out of Sharon.
Okay.
Could I? Is it okay?
Yeah, this needs to be louder too.
Yeah, but as soon as you stopped looking at that and started looking at Sharon, Kathy, your voice changed.
Okay.
What is it?
Yeah, it's a bright line.
Yeah,
Okay. But what I'm trying to say is that whole summer, I made fudge every night. I was so upset every night for 3 months and lost 10 pounds. And God gave me the job of my
James has been running
Oh.
on that.
I had got that much faith, the faith of a mustard seed. I kept thinking it might work out, but I spent a lot of sleepless hours that it wouldn't. And it worked out above and beyond. Well, I don't know that I had enough faith, and ever since I've been working at having enough faith for all the other stuff that comes to us in life.
But that's an example of your faith working, right? You did it anyway, despite the fact that it was a hippie school and you didn't know what you were walking into.
But in, they can't
Yeah,
see you.
yeah, and I just think God led me to apply there. There was no need, liked who I was, you know. I wish I had more faith that I didn't have to make plunge every night that summer. That I just had trusted God and relaxed, because often things almost always have kind of end up working out, even some really nasty things of late. And, you know, I guess my goal in life, my big goal is to have enough faith so that when the stuff comes at you, at that moment you go, it's going to be okay. And I'm not there yet. I'm wanting to be there. Does that make a little sense?
Of course it does. Of course it does. Yeah, Susie.
I want to, my example is 40 years ago when I was fortunate enough to go to Egypt. There was one place I needed to go to. It was Akhenaten and Nefertiti's palace in Tel El Amarna. Well, I couldn't get there. I was trying to arrange it. My cousin, well, anyway, he was trying to arrange it. He said, people have been killed trying to do things like that. He said, you can't go there. He tried to find me a driver from the embassy. Anyway, in the end, I got there. And I said, don't, you know, all this time I kept saying, well, don't worry, God's not going to get me all the way to Egypt and not go to the one place I have to go to. And I got there and it was wonderful.
Well, let me comment on that. She went on a train by herself a couple hours away, got across the Nile, rented 2 kids with donkeys and a guy who couldn't speak English, rode off in the desert with her diamonds and gold.
Get out, I did
And
not.
made it back. So God had to have had his hand in that one.
Thank you for clarifying that, Howard.
I didn't wear diamonds and gold. You know.
But the rest is true, right?
Yeah. Yes, congratulations in a country she didn't know.
Wow.
Yeah. Thank you. That was great.
Thank you.
Well, everybody take a deep breath. How rich, what testimony. I'm going to read number 2. Are you ready for number 2? So we just talked about I want to say a little bit more about number 1. So Sunday I covered 3 powers: faith, understanding, and strength. And so this study guide deals with those 3 powers. The color of faith vibrates in the color that Kathy and Renee are wearing, that kind of royal blue. Yeah. And it's represented by, anyone remember the disciple that represents the power of faith? Peter. Yeah, great. I was thinking this morning, you know, on Sunday I talked about Charles Fillmore, our co-founder, being intuitively guided to look at the Christ and the life of Christ and how he began his ministry by calling, and it was a healing ministry, right? It was a healing, prospering ministry, turned water into wine, calmed the storms, a healing, prospering, peace-producing ministry. In order to do, as a part of doing that, he calls his 12 disciples. This is not a unique paradigm, as I was saying on Sunday, because Native American cultures, the Hindu culture, even Judaism in some ways, has this idea that we are way, way more than this body that we show up in. that a part of our whole being is we are vibrational. We are vibrational. And so he discerned these 12 powers that are creative energies or vibrations that have life, substance, and intelligence of their own. The Hindus believe the same thing. I mean, not exactly the same, but you know, all the gods that the Hindus have, those gods represent certain qualities. And you know, the chakra system is about creative energy centers in the body that when they're potentialized, they generate a kind of power that is a triumphant overcoming power. So having said that now, let's go to the second. Any comments or questions about that, what I just said? Okay. Then number 2, spiritual strength is our spiritual backbone. It empowers us to walk upright in the world, undaunted by temptations to be less than we are, unstopped by fear. So, I mean, even the examples that you all have shared so far, Susie, Kathy, and Sandy, speak to that power of strength. Can you see how strength and faith partnered to accomplish what you talked about? You needed strength to go into that hippie school. Sandy needed strength to keep going down the road, not knowing if she was going to be able to get into the class or not, because she didn't have the money. And our Susie got on donkeys and rode through the desert to get to the temple of Nefertiti. Took a lot of strength.
Really, faith and strength are really our foundations for everything that we do.
Yeah, yeah. They complement or integrate with one another to produce a result.
Right.
And I have tons of strength. And I'm wondering how that helps me with faith, because I struggle with faith is what I want more of. I'm plenty strong. I can take a lot of crap. But
Well, we also live in a human world and things hit us, and sometimes we're not always in the mindset.
Who is it?
And we get hit at times, and that's okay, because we came to learn from that
Did you?
experience too.
Did you learn?
I have.
Yeah. We want to, I mean, get inside your own experience here. You know me, don't you? You know me. You know me. Say I, say I, say I. Me, 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 me. This is a time to focus on self.
Can I comment?
Please.
Can everybody hear me?
look at that figure.
You know, I've been thinking about faith a lot lately, and actually, we couldn't get through the day if we didn't have faith.
Who couldn't?
Just driving here, the woman, you know, driving there had faith that I would stop and not hit her. I mean, you know, we open a package of butter and we have faith that there's butter inside. I mean, every turn we make, I mean, it's mundane, it's simple, but we are just hardwired to have faith. And yeah, you know, we accomplish things in the world, but we just to get through the day, I think we demonstrate our faith in just everything we do.
Well, and we've learned, haven't we? From the time we finally rolled over in our cribs, we were able to roll over. Didn't know how we were going to do it, but we did. We learned to crawl, we learned to walk and run and all those other things that took faith. As spiritual beings, we are asked as adults, well, any age, to put faith in the good when you can't see it.
Good job.
To put faith in an outcome or an experience or an opportunity when you can't see it. That's what faith is.
Yeah.
It's believing before you see.
Believing this awful experience is gonna come out okay.
That's right.
And that's what I want to know. And by that,
Kathy's over here saying, I need more of that, more of that, more of that.
But doesn't that come with, it just comes natural with our conviction of knowing who we are and knowing, I mean, we can't be derailed because you know who you are. Like
Wait,
you
speak
do,
for
I
you,
see.
speak for yourself right now. I can't be derailed.
I can't be derailed because I know who I am, and I know that I belong in a certain situation. So faith, I guess, is what the strength that gets me over the hump.
Yeah, that's right. Well said. Well said. Yes, Susie? Are you wanting to say something, Susie? No? Okay.
It's not working.
Let's see. Anybody else want to say anything about where we are so far in faith and strength? No?
Do we have to, I'm trying to think of how to word this, because I know people who can't seem to get past things, or find that strength to move, or maybe know who they are. And I think back on why I was able to do that. And it was a time in my life, and I've gone in and out of times where I spend a lot of time praying and meditating, and then I go through a period of time where, you know, I don't do that as much, and I lose that ability to stand in my power.
Yeah.
And I just, you know, do you have to connect that mind heart, that for me it's connecting mind and heart and knowing who I am to be able to have that faith and strength to do things. Does everybody need that? Because a lot of people live in their head all the time. And do they, but yet they still accomplish amazing things. And yet if you talk to them, they don't have anything to do with a spiritual side. They don't pray, they don't meditate, they don't even think of that side. And yet they accomplish interesting things. So it's a question in my mind. For me, I know I need to stay centered on who I am at my core and stay meditating and praying and reading in order to stay in my power.
Well, thank you for that, for bringing that forward. I mean, you triggered a lot of ideas in me. And one thing that came to me right away was when I can't even remember how many years ago, a long time ago, I had a tendency, and sometimes still do, to compare my insides to somebody else's outsides. Oh, they're so successful. Look what they did. I can't do that.
Mhm.
And I was told you cannot do that because you don't know what troubles they have or what they do when you don't see them. And then so that's true. To compare our insides, how I'm feeling right now, to what someone else looks like that I want for myself, I can't do that because it's useless, unnecessary suffering. And the other thing that came, Sandy, when you were sharing that brilliant comment, was we make a distinction between self-will, willfulness, and divine will. So self-will can get us to a lot of places. You know, I'm going to pull myself up by my bootstraps and I'm going to do this, doggone it. It's not, it's the harder way. You know, the more graceful way is to say, God and I are going to do this. The Spirit of God in me can do this. That way, well, that way I can lean into grace. You know, I can lean into and not, it feels less stressful to me. It actually is less stressful for me. I don't know about anybody else. But if I can think something that I want and call God into it, show me what to do next, or give me the strength for this, I discover, just like you did when your mom gave you the money, discover that there is grace there. You know, there's a power there that can help us beyond what we could ever figure out for ourselves.
This is Kathy. Can I comment?
Please.
My husband, Greg, is an atheist. And so Sandy and I were talking about this the other day because her husband believes in nothing and she believes in everything. And Greg and I realized that the first night we met, that he believes in nothing and I believe in it all. But I have seen so much grace in his life. And even if he doesn't believe in God, God believes in him. And so I think that God does work through Greg. Greg just doesn't know it.
Yeah. Well, and that's so true, Kathy, because, you know, we have a divine inheritance. Some are aware of it being divine and others aren't. But it's there. It gets to be expanded, I believe, when we become aware of it. More supportive. Okay, anybody else before I go to number 3? All right.
Speaking of more supportive, even though I don't think I have enough faith sometimes, the little I have sure helps.
Yeah.
Just doing it alone doesn't work.
No. Thank you. So Kathy was saying, even although she's been saying this morning, I want more faith, I need more faith, she is aware of the fact that the little faith she has made a huge, has made a huge difference.
For me, I'm not sure that I was always aware of what I felt was faith. And I still, like Kathy said, struggle at times. But I've always had an inner knowingness that things were going to work out. I didn't put the term faith on it, but I believe it was a faith.
Mm-hmm. For sure. For
I
sure.
always had the inner nagging that they just might not work out, and that's what I went to get rid of.
Yeah, Kathy said she has had the inner nagging that things are not going to work out, and that's what she wants to get rid of. And we're coming up to the month where you can do that. November is the month. November is the month of release. Release. Yes, it's a roto-rooter, a spiritual roto-rooter.
Good, I'll get there.
Yeah. Okie dokie. Number 3. Are we ready? Divine understanding can soften our heart and sharpen our mind to see through circumstances to an empowering truth. So divine understanding is represented by the disciple. Anybody remember disciple Thomas? And divine understanding is golden. The color gold, and it is in the center. We say, you can believe anything you want, but we say it's right here behind the forehead, right next to the power of will, but in terms of understanding. So soften the heart and sharpen the mind. What do you think about that? Any comments there? Any experiences, any examples?
This is Eileen.
Eileen.
I had an experience yesterday where I hardened my heart instead of softening it.
Hmm.
And I was not very proud of myself after that experience because the person that I was having that experience with, I love a lot. And I didn't show that and come with love with that. And so that's a big one for me today. I think I've already started November because I spent yesterday trying to release that judgment and unlove that I had in my heart to come from a place that I know that I want to be, but I don't know why I didn't go there. It just made me sad that I couldn't be the kind of person that I'm striving to be. So that person I think is listening and knows that I'm really sorry for not having that loving heart.
Oh, thank you. So pause just a moment and take a deep breath, Eileen. And where you stand today, which I mean, it's a great gift and a great awareness. It's a great sign of great spiritual growth and maturity to recognize when we're off course, when we have just stepped out of alignment with our value system. It takes great awareness, and to feel it like you feel it is very powerful. So standing where you are today, what would divine understanding tell you about the situation?
For me, it's a mirror for what things I have not let go of yet that are my own judgments of myself.
Hmm.
And it's a reminder that what's out there is not out there. I need to point back to myself and say, this is you, and you need to let that go. Today is a time to forgive yourself because you've just been given the mirror that you still have those judgments about yourself. So I need to forgive myself for those things that I still judge about myself and take them to heart.
Yes. And how will you do that?
I'll start by praying for strength and for guidance for those things that will help me be that kind of person, and meditate on those things and remind myself that I really am a loving, giving, wonderful person, and not step back into a place where I know that I don't want to be.
Very true. And what's another step that you can take?
I can also ask that person for forgiveness and remember that, you know, we are in this together and that we can reach out and say, you know, thank you for that lesson for me today. Thank you for reminding me that this is something that I need to work on. And
Beautiful. Beautiful. Absolutely. Take a deep breath. What's your energy like now, Eileen?
it's a lot less tense because I've been trying to let go of that, like I said, since yesterday, and allow myself to be where I know I want to be. And I was just thankful that we had class today because I knew that this would help me to let go of that. And I appreciate you all for your listening and for your understanding and energy that you helped me with that.
Fabulous.
Can I say something to Eileen?
Sure.
I think you have huge understanding. Everything you said shows that you have this huge understanding for what happened yesterday. Many people don't have that. They still think that person was wrong. So I think your understanding is huge and deep and wide.
Yes. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you, Eileen. Very courageous of you to put it out there. Number 4, Divine power is the creative energy that fuels all of our other powers into action. Divine power, well, I guess I included 4 in this, in this one. Divine power is another power. I haven't gotten there yet. I jumped ahead of myself. I mean, on Sunday mornings. But divine power is right here in your throat. Right here in your throat. And it's the place where thoughts, the energy of thought is transformed into the energy of sound. And that power, the power of power, is the energy of forward momentum. It's just like, you know, you turn the key in the ignition, or these days you just get in the car and hit the brake, right? Yeah. And the car goes on. But if you can imagine that power, the power of power is what takes the other powers into action. So it's always, you know, almost always being utilized. Any comments on that? Did I say the color? The color is purple, Joe. Where's Joe? It's your favorite color, Joe, purple. Any comments on divine power as creative energy that fuels others? How many of you have ever felt powerless? How many have ever felt powerless? Consider for a moment what you felt powerless about. Well, maybe there are no true confessions right now. I'll tell you what, I felt powerless to have my kids behave the way I wanted them to.
That was what was in my head.
Yeah. I mean, they weren't going to. And when they hit a certain, when they were teenagers, you know, I wanted them to not be so wild, and that didn't work. So the thing is, we can only have power over what? What do we really only have power over?
Ourselves.
Oh, what a brilliant class. What a brilliant class. We really only have power over ourselves, our own attitudes, our own thoughts, our own perceptions. And
So what does that say about the power of prayer? So I only have power over me, right? But when I pray about my family in awful situations, there's some power there, right?
right. But I mean, if you're attached to this prayer is going to change them so they're what the way I want them to be, that's off a little bit. This prayer,
Then I'm off.
Well, this prayer is for whoever it is. Let's say the most frequent call to silent unity is for healing, physical healing. And so it could be healing for themselves or someone they love, right? But what affirmative prayer does, it affirms that the power of spirit in that person is the healing power. We can affirm that the love in someone is the great healer for whatever. It's all about motivation and intentionality in the prayer, right? I mean, we pray for others believing in faith that the divine idea of love or life or understanding or strength, that divine idea is kindled in them as a result of our prayer. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I like that. I mean, I don't have to like it, but yes.
But you can get how it's so.
Yeah. So praying for my son to be happy that the spirit in him can make him happy rather than saying, praying he gets a new job. Or
Yeah, or praying that if I'm going to be around you, I want you to be happy. No, the prayer is, may the Spirit of God in him
lift him up.
bless him and lift him and enfolds him in love, right? Kindle the power of love in him. That, any Renee has something.
Because they have free will, they have to accept that
Yeah.
into their heart. It's still their free will, I believe.
But it helps to pray that for them, right?
Well, it helps you and it helps them, because no prayer is ever wasted. You know, you can't say, God, I prayed, now I want it done now. But you can pray with the understanding that prayer is the most highly accelerated kind of vibration, and it is non-local. All our thoughts and words are non-local. They're energy, and they do what they are. So we don't have to know exactly what our prayer is doing. We just know that it's doing something useful.
Something positive.
Yeah.
Rather than worrying about someone that doesn't do anything positive for them.
Right. To worry about someone that's energy too, right? The energy of worry is kind of, it's not helpful, right?
No.
I wish I had known that when my kids were teenagers.
Me too. And I wish I still, knowing it and getting it completely are different things.
Right. Thank you.
That is wonderful. Thank you for clarifying all that, because I know that I've always had, when I think of prayer, sometimes I get a little bit concerned about, yes, I want the person to be healed or to be better, but maybe that is not what God wants for them. Okay, not that he wants to, not that he's judging them or making them sick or anything like that, but maybe there's something to be learned in the process.
Right.
For me, I like to think that people come in as learners or teachers, and maybe their illness has a purpose in teaching other people things.
Right. We can't know the soul of the person. We can only pray in a positive way and support them in every way.
Right.
And have faith in its divine order.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. And faith that it's Kathy was saying, and have faith that it's divine order, whatever. Divine order is activated. Go ahead.
In the Course in Miracles, you're actually praying for their mind to be healed, or you would say their heart, and whatever follows from that.
Right.
If there's a physical healing, then that's what it's meant to be. But it's about healing your heart, healing your mind.
But we really can't dictate what the healing looks like, can we?
No.
Or when it will happen.
Or when it will happen.
Yeah.
Want it tomorrow.
No. There is a God and I'm not it. Okay, any other comments on number 4, y'all? All? No? Are you, did you all have your coffee this morning?
Yes.
Okay, we're going to the questions. We can shape ourselves in the form of faith. How would you do that?
Affirmations, denials, prayer, and meditation.
Yay!
I'm trying them every day.
Yes, affirmations, denials, and what was the third one?
Prayer. Well, I don't know.
Oh, prayer.
But prayer and meditation.
Prayer and meditation.
I think you taught me that.
Yes.
Can I say this book has amazing affirmations? Amazing.
Oh, thank you.
It's a plug.
This book is powerful.
I'm talking about the resilience book in case you can't see in here.
I have tons of self-help books. This is one of the best.
Oh, thank you.
Amen to that.
Amen.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you.
I'm
Thank
gonna read it 18 times. And by
Yeah.
then maybe I'll get it.
Yeah, it's like a reference book, with the affirmations. And then you have visualize understanding. You have,
Prayers.
pray understanding. I mean,
This is the work of a lifetime.
It is the worth of,
yeah,
it is.
yeah.
No, it is.
Yeah.
I'm still at it. Yeah, still at it, always at it.
May I?
Please.
You wrote, the more I understand spiritual principles, the more I understand myself and others. And then you have this thing here about divine understanding, how is our spiritual backbone.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, onward and upward, team. So number one, we did number one. Anyone want to come in on number one any further? Okay. Number two is, what's the most important conversation that you need to stop having with yourself? Or start having with yourself?
That it can't be done and replace it with it can be done.
Yes, Kathy needs to have the conversation, stop having the conversation that it can't be done and start having the conversation that it can. Yeah. Who else? Anybody else comment?
This is Kathy.
Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
Who's that?
Oh, Kathy, but you can do the classroom first and then come back.
Oh, go ahead, Kathy. Go ahead. We got you.
Okay. When I was reading, when you were talking about your daughter Jennifer and what she did with her friend Lisa, I think her name was just beautiful. And I wrote in my highlighter, this is grace. And and so then I thought, I want to be graceful. I'm such a klutz. And that's when I thought, I got to stop calling myself a klutz. And so I started adding to my affirmations. I am a graceful expression of whatever it is that I want to affirm. And so that's the conversation I'm having with myself is I am full of grace. I'm graceful physically, and I'm not a klutz.
Oh, let's go to Samba class together. Oh, what a wonderful affirmation, Kat. Great affirmation. How do what do you experience when you say that to yourself?
Which part? That I'm a graceful expression? I feel my heart lifting up, and I feel like when I grew up, I always idolized Loretta Young, coming down the staircase in these gorgeous gowns with so much grace. And that was like, she was always, when I was 4 or 5 years old, she was like, oh, I want to be that. And so when I call myself a graceful expression, I kind of feel like Loretta Young.
Oh, yeah.
Nice. Great. Anybody else on what conversation you need to stop having or start having?
Okay.
Yes, Renee.
For me, it's okay to make mistakes.
Okay.
And what gets me out of a funk is I say, okay, I radiate love, and I visualize this energy just going out. And those two things work.
So I hope you all heard her. So one of the conversations that she starts with herself is, I'm a radiating center of love. And the other one is, it's okay to make mistakes.
I saw that love sitting behind you 4 years ago in the church pew and thought I would make friends with her.
Oh.
And I saw this something. Yes.
Oh, Kathy, I don't know if you heard what Kathy said to Renee, that she felt her love vibration one day in church and thought to herself, I want to make friends with her.
This is the day.
It certainly expresses what we're talking about here, right? Our thoughts and emotions create a vibrational field that others can experience and do experience. Yeah. Okay, number 3. What is an example of how spiritual understanding has helped you in a relationship? Would you care to comment on that, Howard?
Sure, I would love to comment, but it maybe in a different way. To me, there's so many situations that occur in a daily occurrence where, bad driver cuts you off, or a checkout person is surly or something, that I always reflect on a statement made by Joel Osteen in one of his books about the time he was in a checkout counter and checkout line, and everybody was mad at the girl behind the register because she was screwing up over and over and over again. And finally, he stepped up to her and he said, "I'm sorry, you're having a bad day." And she said, "My son's in the hospital."
Oh,
Come on, take the emotion out of it.
Anyway, she said, "My son's in the hospital. I'm worried he won't live." And obviously that must have meant something to me, because now when I see somebody that's behaving poorly, I reflect back on that. It's maybe we don't know the whole situation that's going on in that person's life.
that's right.
Anyway, I thought I'd cry for the audience. It always is uplifting.
We love it. Oh, thanks, Howard.
Well, you made me do it.
That was beautiful. Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, that was really a wonderful example of spiritual understanding in action. Yeah, thank you. Oh, well, my heart's fluttering.
When I worked in school suspension, the common thought is the kids are bad, and a lot of them are repeat offenders. Yeah, I would have the same ones every day. And at the same time, I was doing healing touch practice and, learning more spiritual ways to think and be. And I had learned that when people are struggling, and obviously these kids have lost their power and all compassion for anything. And so when they would come in, they were used to, I was a new in-school suspension person. The previous one used to sit and read the paper and tell the kids to shut up and do their homework. And that's all he did. And I just thought, I gave up a job at Minneapolis Children's Hospital to work with teenagers that were struggling. And so it was important to me to have some sort of relationship with them. And I didn't really know how I was going to do that, but I just trusted that I could. And so I would, the first thing I would say to them, because they'd all come in angry, and I'd just say, "What do you need?" And what that not only did for them is that it opened a conversation, but it did something for me. I got very compassionate when I would use that phrase, "What do you need?" Because I felt compassion for them, and I felt it like it changed me. So they were able to speak. And what's interesting is when I got a letter from the principal one day, somebody brought it down to the ISS room. And the kids and I would have conversations a lot about what's needed and changes that needed to happen. So anyway, this letter had told me that they were going to pull me anytime the secretary up in the office was sick. They were going to pull me from ISS and just put another person in there. Because, what do those kids need? We can just have a sub. And I was very troubled by that, because that's not how I viewed what I did. So I knew I had to do something about it. And one little 8th grade boy saw me, just my brow furrowed and very upset reading this letter. And he goes, "Mrs. Fish, what do you need?"
Oh,
I was like, there we go. And I said, "Well, I need to have a conversation with the principal." It brought up a whole nother thing, because they frequently had conversations with the principal, and they all go, "Whoa, you don't want to do that." But But it also made me think of how all of these things work so well together, because in order to go up and have that conversation and say, and the way I put it to the principal was, I got your letter and I understand the need. However, I came to work with kids and to be of service in some way to assisting them to seeing things differently, or getting out of this wheel they're on to constantly sitting in ISS. And I'm not seeing that I can do that sitting in the secretary's office. So I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to think about this all day. And at the end of the day, I'll give you my decision on what I'll do. And he said, well, you don't get to choose. You will, this is what we're going to do. And I said, oh, no, you misunderstood. I'm going to choose whether I stay here in employment or whether I quit, because this is not the thing that I wanted to do. And he just looked at me, and I said, I got to get back to my ISS room. And I went down, and by the end of the day, I had a letter that said, we will find someone else to substitute for the secretary. So, but my point is that all those powers came together. All those 12 powers came together. Faith, strength, compassion. I didn't go in and yell, I'm not doing that. I calmed myself because some 8th grade little boy said, what do you need? And I was able to, all of those things work together for a really good outcome. And they learned who I was. The principal learned who I was. So
How powerful, very powerful.
Yeah.
Whew, wow. Wow. We were all clapping and yay. Oh.
But just remember those words when people are yelling at you or you're getting frustrated, either ask yourself that, what do I need? Or there's something about the vibration of that word, I think, need.
There is. Yes, there's, well, that question is a very high vibration.
Yeah.
Coming from your heart. It's a very, it's full of compassion and willingness to be of service. Yeah, thank you. Oh my goodness. This is like a gourmet spiritual meal. Thank you all. Number 4, share a time when you have felt disempowered by someone or something, and a time when you move forward in your life in the face of all the reasons why not. We've heard a little bit about that from some of the things you've shared, but as you consider that question or that invitation, what comes to you, anybody?
I would think that for me, my first marriage,
Yeah, same one.
when I was very verbally and emotionally abused, and felt like, so I'd gotten to the point that I felt like what he told me, that, I was lucky that he put a roof over my head, that he had a good job and all of this kind of stuff. And I felt like after being beaten down so many years, that there's nothing I could do about it. I couldn't get out of it.
Yeah.
And when it finally came to the point that it was going to be him or me, and I finally left, that's when I started moving forward. Now I had to have a lot of help, and I worked on it for a good 8 years, and still work on it at times, because it's a habit that I have sometimes gotten myself into when I've been overwhelmed.
Mm-hmm.
But I learned that I can do things. I can be independent. I can grow spiritually. My faith became stronger, and I was successful in a lot of things that I tried to do.
Yeah, great. Thank you. That was a great example of all the powers we've been talking about, right? To have the faith to leave, to understand this is not right, to have the strength then to exit. Great example. Anybody else?
This is Kathy.
Yeah.
I kind of similar, but not quite. I was in a relationship for I was in a relationship for 7 years, but the last 2 years of that relationship, I was being seriously physically abused. At the same time, I was a director in a Fortune 500 company, and so I had a lot of responsibilities at work, and balancing those responsibilities with somebody at home in my house. And so I couldn't get rid of him because I owned the house. It's not like I could move away from him, and I couldn't get him to move away. So during that time, I would come home and just, after a long day of being very, very responsible, come home and being very, very vulnerable because of what was going on. And so I had to have the faith to stay because I couldn't just walk out. It was my house, so I couldn't leave. It was an important job, so I just didn't know how I could get away from him. So I just prayed, and I prayed a lot and just left it to God, saying, I don't know how to fix this, but you do. In the meantime, my work started going crazy, being very bad, where there was a lot of anger, a lot of problems at that work. And we were McKesson was disenfranchising itself of our branch. And so we were sold to somebody else on the other side of the country. But before that sale happened, I was not getting any kind of peace at work or at home. And I just kept on saying, I know that you're in this. I don't see how I'm going to get through it, but I'm only going to get through it with you. And all of that problem at work turned out to be a blessing to me, because it meant that I was relocated to Washington, D.C., on the other side of the country. And this bad guy didn't have the gumption to get up and follow. So it was just a situation where I had to live for 2 years on faith that this was all going to work out, knowing that it was going to work out, because God never fails us. And I just had to stick with it until it did work out.
Beautiful. Beautiful. True, true, true. Yeah, thank you. Thank you all. Well, everybody take a deep breath. Thank you so much for everyone sharing and for being here today. We're all here for each other, and that's a great blessing. So there are some suggested practices right there, and I know you can find some in the book as well. Do one thing this week that you're afraid to do. Can be a little bitty one, because sometimes fears are little, but they're stoppers. And then number 2, speak your truth when it would seem safer not to. That builds strength, I say. It builds faith too after the fact. Seek to understand in a situation when you want to be understood instead. And take one small step to move forward in some area of your life. It might be some step forward intellectually, emotionally, physically, or spiritually. Okay, let's close with prayer. You ready? Spirit of the living God, we just give thanks together right now for this very heartful, energizing time together. We give thanks for beautiful vulnerability and courage. We give thanks for the blessings of this time together, ones that we're aware of right now and ones that will continue to grace us throughout the rest of this day and week. We pray this knowing that it's unfolding in perfect, beautiful divine order. And so it is. And we all say, Amen.
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 Love you.